Welcome to Contemporary Retirement. Contemporary Retirement is a public interest program focused on the retirement community. Every program has segments on legal, financial, and health issues affecting the retirement community. Contemporary Retirement is sponsored in part by a major grant from the Family Heritage Trust Company.
Contemporary Retirement is sponsored by Family Heritage Trust Company. The Family Heritage Trust Company is an independent bank chartered trust company established by local professionals to provide fiduciary services including fee-based investment advice, trust services, retirement planning, and tax planning. The Family Heritage Trust Company is committed to client service in our communities. For more information, call the Family Heritage Trust Company at 301-631-5900.
Contemporary Retirement is sponsored in part by a grant from R. Thomas Murphy & Associates, P.C. R. Thomas Murphy & Associates is one of Franklin County's leading law firms, emphasizing estate, trust, elder law, and medical assistance planning.
Welcome to the Is It Legal feature on Contemporary Retirement. Is It Legal focuses on the legal issues affecting the retirement community. With me today is Tom Murphy from the R. Thomas Murphy Law Firm with offices in Waynesboro, Chambersburg, and McConnellsburg. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Good morning.
Tom, we've been doing a sequence on the difference between estate planning and elder law. Estate planning today for tax purposes mostly irrelevant.
Well, exactly. It's more about control and ease of transitioning wealth to family. For most people, it used to be about tax avoidance. Now the tax situation is relaxed and it's much easier to avoid it.
And so one of our challenges is that the wills that we do tend not to be terribly complex anymore because the tax issues are irrelevant. But there are family circumstances that will really drive that process. And so, for instance, one of the challenges that we have out in rural Pennsylvania and Maryland is that we have farms. Sure. And as I always tell the parents, if you'd only had one child, it wouldn't be a problem. But you didn't stop at one. Now you have 2, 3, 4 children, and trying to balance all of those equities. Oftentimes the family is completely stymied by that because they're trying to invent the wheel, whereas you and I have seen this problem every week, and we have some strategies on how to work through it. Not one strategy fits all people, but to give them some ideas on how to do it.
Right, I mean, and that goes across the spectrum, but farms are unique, businesses are unique, big assets that families want to control and usually one or more children are involved with. You got to plan that through or else it really ends up being the source of destruction for a lot of the wealth there.
And there's a lot of things that you can do. You know, you can say, for instance, that, well, we'll let the farm go to the farmer child at farmer value, but if they sell that thing in the first 10 years, they may have to share some of that excess profits with the other siblings. Sure. Because it was not premised on them getting a windfall in the other siblings. Sometimes one child has farmed the farm for 20 years after dad stopped farming the farm. Yeah. Well, sometimes you might use a valuation that was 20 years ago, not the current valuation, because dad wouldn't own the farm currently if that farmer child had not farmed the farm.
Oh yeah, there's a number of unique ways of going back and protecting that farming child who usually is the one who is driving an income from it and preserving it for the family. And there's some unique things in Pennsylvania on tax avoidance with the use of the farm.
Yeah, Maryland's very favorable on it. The feds are very favorable on it. It tends not to be a problem. Right. Sometimes the family says, yeah, but the farmer child cannot afford to finance the purchase out of the non-farmer children. Well, nothing says you can't have the estate do the financing for them and give them a favorable terms and give them some time to work it out.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, there's any number of ways to do that to keep the farmer child in business and be fair to the rest of the family. But sometimes fair is not equal, and so you need to sometimes come to that conclusion as well.
Well, sure, you might say every one of these children had a chance to be the farm and get the farm and participate in it. They chose not to, and I don't choose to break up the family farm in the name of doing that. So they might try some alternatives. Sometimes if it's early in this process, we might obtain life insurance on the father or the mother or them jointly, a second to die policy, oftentimes significantly less expensive, and to try to give some equalization that way.
Certainly. And again, farm is more of a generic term in my mind. It could be business or big cabin or anything else that's unique and they want to benefit a child but be fair or try to be fair to the others.
So the estate plan that we're talking about in that context is estate planning. It's about planning the transition of the assets to the next generation, but does not necessarily mean that there's a tax issue.
Well, exactly, and nothing we even mentioned talks about taxes, but it does go to control and minimizing expenses, because if you don't grab the bull by the horns and deal with that situation, your children are going to be forced to do that, and it's usually a mess and usually expensive.
And then we have to confront it with their real risk, which is long-term care costs. And there's some opportunities in the long-term care environment to protect that farm, but there's also some risks associated with it, and so you have to work with the family to try to decide how they want to balance those risks.
Well, certainly, and so when you have a big fixed asset like that, it poses some challenges. So you need to think about alternative ways of preserving it, protecting it, and that goes into estate planning.
But also long-term care planning. So for instance, in Maryland, a family business is an exempt resource. So if one spouse of the owner of the farm goes in the nursing home, we can protect the entire farm, all the business assets. If it's a family business, we can protect all of those assets. Yet every day these people are being told their farm is going to have a lien against it, they have to sell it, and the answer is they don't. And if they engage in those strategies, they will have taken something that was exempt and put the proceeds at risk from the sale.
Well, that's a good point. And so people hear this stuff and do knee-jerk things that don't do anything but create problems. And so part of the good estate planning, long-term care planning, is melding those two so you know what the rules are and how to deal with those issues.
Tom, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on the program.
You're welcome.
More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
Few things in life are as important as family. Leave your insurance worries to us, Wright Gardner. Call or visit our website to learn how we can make insurance simple and more affordable.
Every life that meets its end leaves a heart for love to mend. Sister, brother, family, friends are left to carry on. When the loss seems more than you can bear, it's nice to know that we'll be there at Douglas A. Fiery Funeral Home. We care.
Call Ed Lowe to help put your mind at ease.
Welcome to a special guest feature on Contemporary Retirement. This segment focuses on various issues which are of importance to the retirement community. With me today is Matt Hurley from Hurley Auctions. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thanks, Mike.
You know, one of the great challenges the retirement community has is downsizing, occasionally somebody passing, and looking at 80 years worth of accumulation in a house.
That's right. What do you do with it?
And oftentimes people are, first of all, intimidated by it. We oftentimes see houses that are sitting in an estate for 2 or 3 years. They blame it on probate, but actually it's the kid's inability to figure out what to do with the house and the contents.
They're just not sure where to start, back and forth, one room to the next, and nothing gets done.
And so let's start with rule number 1.
Rule number 1, don't throw anything away.
And then rule number 2, don't help.
Yeah, let us take over. We can handle it.
Well, you know, I oftentimes point out to my clients in one of my offices, we have some very beautiful mirrors, and those mirrors look much more valuable hanging on the wall than they do laying on their sides against
The
the wall.
biggest problem we've had lately is people trying to help, and they take everything out of the china closet and put it in the middle of the living room floor. It doesn't look nice there. It looks nice in the china closet. We want to see it in the china closet.
Yeah, so people really are inclined to help. Now, you know, there's a nationally syndicated program that we won't mention the name on. There's been a lot of questioning as to evaluations and so forth. And so one of our fun events we like to do here is to show actual sales.
Yeah.
And so what we have here is we have Director Greg pull up some pictures. Now, the first characteristic of this clock is, where was it? Was it on the mantle or where was it?
Well, the neat thing about every picture in here, Mike, all this stuff was headed to the dump. I dug it out of trash bags.
So you're dumpster diving.
That's right. I was dumpster diving everything here.
All right, so what, that was a clock, and so you got
120. This is a fan, and this is the kind of stuff they throw away because it's just an old metal fan, but it brought $95. Honest truth. It was in the dumpster.
And so we tell people anyway is the people that are the sellers today are not the buyers, and they don't know what the buyers like.
When I pulled this out of the trash, the guy said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Don't throw this away."
Well, you see these things and, typically bought at some sort of touristy shop or something.
It was a lamp, probably from the 50s.
Now, this can't be worth anything.
Look at the bottom picture, how the water had damaged it. The doors were all cracked and falling apart. It still brought $145. And we even put in the description, in rough condition, used for repair or parts.
Oh, no, this thing can't be worth anything.
You know what?
This is a paperweight,
He
right?
had a bunch of toys in the backyard on a metal pile that he was taking to be recycled. I said, don't throw those away.
So the tractor even started, do we know?
Oh, it was just a pedal tractor. It was just a pedal
Oh,
tractor.
all right.
This was on the scrap pile. And you can see it's buried in the backyard. It's still kind of covered up with dirt and leaves when I took this picture. It was going to the trash, and it brought $143.
And that's, on your website. That's a national sale, international sale. Now,
16,000 bidders.
Oh, my.
This was an old oyster tin that, again, in a trash bag. This guy had taken 6 loads to the dump before I got there. And when I got there were trash bags everywhere. And I said, what are these? He goes, let's go to the dump. I said, let me take a look. So
What do we have here?
here's a neat, it's just like a princess dresser, $100. But again, he was throwing everything away.
And so, it's what they say, one person's junk is another one's treasure.
If you add up these pictures as we go through, there's well over $1,000. And we sold thousands of dollars out of this house that I pulled out of the trash. This is a cast iron bear pot, $42.
And so, nobody's going to want that thing.
You would think nobody would want that. This is the stuff that's really hot, Mike. The stuff from the 50s, the vintage chrome chairs, the red, the chrome, really hot right now. 20 years ago, I couldn't sell it. I couldn't give it away. But today, they're really hot.
And so, it just keeps coming back to that point is, the people that are the sellers do not understand the buyers' mentalities.
These were on the scrap pile, $80 for the 2 galvanized tubs. So,
it's amazing, but that goes back to the first premise is don't throw anything.
Don't throw any. And look at this, just some old car emblems. We don't have the car, we just have parts and pieces, $130.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
so
fun stuff.
So that person has that house stuffed to the gills. They call you, you come in, and there's basically 4 piles.
Mm-hmm.
There's the personal stuff, no value, take it or it's no value. There's the trash.
Right.
There's the stuff that goes to Goodwill or some other service organization. It has no value, but it might be usable by somebody. And then the last pile
That's the treasure pile.
That's the treasure pile. And oftentimes people just have no idea which
They get those piles mixed up. So let us help.
Yeah, one of the things is you'll come in with a crew, and if a house were to run the full cycle, including the sale and everything, it's a couple of weeks you're done.
3 weeks we're in and out.
And you do all the work.
And that's everything. Empty house.
That's right. And so, and most of the stuff is bought on the internet. People hard to believe, but these buyers today don't feel any need to touch anything.
We send it all over the world.
Matt, as always, thanks for taking time.
Good to be here. Thanks.
More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
Tranquillity at Fredericktown Assisted Living and Memory Care provides a warm, home-like atmosphere that promotes daily life enrichment. At Tranquillity, our medical director is a geriatric physician. Our professionals support and understand the various stages associated with Alzheimer's and dementia. We have on-site physical, occupational, and speech therapists, as well as around-the-clock licensed nurses. For more information, give Tranquillity at Fredericktown a call today, because everyone deserves great care. Let us do the caregiving so you and your loved one can embrace life again.
Guys, I thought you were supposed to be working in the yard.
But Dad, just one more bid on HurleyAuctions.com.
If you haven't visited HurleyAuctions.com, you don't know what you're missing. Whether you're buying or selling, antique cars, tractors, boats, or real estate, you can do it all at HurleyAuctions.com.
Get to know Dr. Carrie Hesley at Diagnostic Imaging Services.
What I find most rewarding is caring for women through our Women's Imaging Center. We have a caring staff that will ease patients through an ultrasound, bone densitometry, breast biopsy, or mammogram. Our health team is sensitive to emotions involved in women's imaging and understands that every woman is at risk for breast cancer. Providing the community with a center that is so dedicated to breast health and the imaging needs of women is something special.
DIS Women's Imaging Center, providing women with progressive care.
Welcome to Contemporary Health Scene. Contemporary Health Scene focuses on the health issues affecting the retirement community. With me today is Bridget Keefe, Community Relations Director Tranquillity of Fredericktown. Welcome to the show, Bridget.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
You know, Bridget, you and I have spent a long time working with families to try to understand how assisted living fits into people's care delivery models. You know, the first assumption that we deal with families all the time is the assumption that in-home care is less expensive than assisted living.
Absolutely, and you know, the goal is always keep mom or dad at home as long as you can, but the reality is it costs more to have home care than it does to have 24-hour assisted living care.
And that becomes the challenge. Now, if a person is mostly independent, then perhaps 4 or 5 hours of in-home care might be a more cost-effective way of delivering it. But the problem is that once you have a person who has indeterminate care needs, we don't know what hours of the day they're going to need help, the potential for wandering, you know, the potential for not appropriately medicating and feeding themselves, which 8 hours are they going to need support?
Right, and medication, that's a very good point. A lot of home health aides are not licensed to administer meds, so you still have it up to the family caregiver or the parent themselves, and that can open a whole host of problems.
So in particular, you have a person that's a wandering risk, they need 24 supervision. You know, it's not 8 hours, it's not going to be sufficient. You start getting 24 hours through an agency, you're well in excess of the cost of a nursing home.
Absolutely.
And then the problem is there's no socialization, there's no interaction, there's not a lot of stimulation, which we all know can adversely impact a person's onset of dementia.
Right, and you've said before that once you lose your driver's license and you're stuck in your house, it really becomes like being in a prison. So the assisted living model is all about getting people out of their apartments into the common areas, socializing with their peers.
And one of the challenges is that people somehow think their house is free. And from my role as an elder law attorney, I tell people that your house costs you 1% a month to own. So if you have a $300,000 house, taxes, insurance, utilities, maintenance, deferred maintenance, and you don't have that money invested, you're spending $3,000 a month. So when you're using in-home care, which might be several $1,000s a month, plus the cost of maintaining that house, you're well in excess of the cost of assisted living.
And you're buying groceries and all of that stuff like that too. So yes, we can provide a maintenance-free lifestyle. Your meals are prepared, you have your social activities, there's transportation if you need it, and we give medications.
So you have licensed med techs?
Licensed med techs who are supervised by registered nurses and LPNs as well.
And one of the things that we also see is occasionally we see people going to the hospital, discharged to a nursing home, and then being discharged out of the nursing home out of Medicare. Their choice is to stay in the nursing home at a rate comparable to twice what your hourly rate, your daily rate is. And in the meantime, the reason they did that was a perception. There was no physical or occupational therapy available in assisted living.
Correct. And we have physical, occupational, and speech therapy on site, 100% covered by Medicare Part A. So it's kind of like an offer you can't refuse.
And so oftentimes, if you have availability, you will take that person on less than a permanent admission to try to fill that need as well.
We do. We have a respite program. It doesn't cost any more than what someone would pay the daily rate, and a lot of people do benefit from that.
And so part of what we challenge people is they look at their money and they, first of all, they do your calculation and then they say, well, if I divide that into the amount of money that mom has, I can only pay for 3 years there. First thing they ignore is mom has income. The second thing they ignore is the average stay in assisted living for somebody who goes there because they have to, not because they don't want to take the trash out anymore, because they have to, is around 2 years. And so they're looking at an open-ended exposure that really isn't typically not the case.
Right, and they're not looking at the fact that mom is also 96. You know, in their minds, mom's going to live forever, and that's just not always the reality.
And then, of course, your organization will direct people to resources that might help them manage those resources, most commonly the VA aid and attendance benefit.
Absolutely, yes.
And then, of course, occasionally there's some methodologies, even within your facility, to cut costs if people are willing to have a semi-private.
Right, we can always start someone off in the apartment of their dreams, and, you know, as the funds start to dwindle, we move people around all the time.
And Bridget, how could somebody come see you and see the facility?
They can pop in. We love having visitors. We're located on Jefferson Pike next to the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
And your phone number?
301-663-6030.
Bridget, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on the program.
Thank you, Mike.
More from Contemporary Retirement after these messages.
The Community Foundation strives to be a forward-thinking organization.
We are assessing needs, working with donors to see things differently,
so that Frederick County can be its best. It's a wonderful place for all of us to live, work, and play.
We look forward to addressing the future needs of the community.
Visit frederickcountygives.org and learn how you can start to see things differently too.
Albright, Crumbacher, Mal & Idtel are a full-service firm that provides elder care services including managing incoming bills, bill payment, depositing checks, balancing bank statements, and preparing, planning, and filing personal tax returns. Put your mind at ease and call us today.
Welcome to the Making Sense feature on Contemporary Retirement. Making Sense focuses on the financial issues affecting the retirement community. With me today is Christian Wright, president of Wright, Gardner Insurance. Welcome to the show, Christian.
Thank you, Michael.
You know, one of the interesting things about your agency is there's no name insurance company attached to it.
Yeah, so we are an independent agent. We represent a lot of different insurance companies, so we're not beholden to any one insurance company, which gives us a lot of flexibility.
And one of the interesting things that's happened in your business, you see an awful lot of consolidation. We've seen a lot of other financial services companies acquire agencies, and those agencies have gone from being, you know, very independent, focused on customer service, to now sort of being corporate and maximizing profits, and a little bit of question about their commitment.
Yes, I mean, once you become that corporate large entity, you operate under a whole different set of circumstances, where with us, the nice thing about a company like us, first of all, being an independent agent, we're not beholden to one insurance company. We've talked about that a lot. But the other thing is we're, actually we're family owned. So we actually, you get right to the top. You need me? Call, and you'll talk right to me.
And then, of course, you have employees that are very active in the process as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Employees that, there's a very short chain of command. They take a lot of pride, not that others don't, but they take a lot of pride in the work that they do. And they're also local employees, and they care about the community and the insureds that we have.
And and I've been in this community more than 40 years and dealing with insurance agencies, and I can remember 30, 40 years ago, there are 4 or 5 really high quality independent agents out there that really knew what they're doing. And unfortunately, with this corporate ownership, we now see a number of those agencies that are really not of the same caliber that they once were.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate situation for many policyholders in the area. You're used to dealing with someone, something happens or they're acquired, and you don't have that personal touch. And the personal touch is what I think you need, especially when you're dealing with something like insurance that can be many times confusing and need not be.
And what we find is the consumer in this environment is almost completely ill-equipped to make good decisions in this. They're buying stuff not understanding what they're buying. Oftentimes they're focused on cost, not realizing that the insurance industry is strictly a measure of how much risk you're willing to accept, and when there's a lower cost, you're accepting greater risk.
Exactly. I wish more policyholders understood that, potential policyholders, because some of these national companies have done such a great job of advertising about price. But the reality is you get what you pay for. I'm not suggesting you need to pay a lot for your insurance, but a fair price. Here's the thing. If you're going to cut your insurance by 25%, you are cutting coverage, because all insurance companies are actually, they buy their insurance from the same company. So this idea that you just keep driving the price down without sacrificing coverage is just simply not true.
Well, they're all operating off of the same databases. They know what, it doesn't cost any less to fix a Ford, whether it's done by one company or another. The risk of that car being involved in an accident is roughly the same no matter which carrier there is, so there cannot be any magic there.
There isn't. And many times we talk about a lot of issues on this program, like limits of insurance and minimum limits on automobile insurance. And
when you're looking at a lot lower premiums, you know, 9 times out of 10, it's absolutely you're getting minimum protection, and the cost to increase that isn't that much. So, you know, viewers really need to take the time and talk to their agent about what they're buying so they understand it.
You know, when I look at insurance across the board, I'm going to use a number which I've never seen an insurance agent get this kind of a number, 20% of the going commission. They never get that much. So the reality is, you know, when you talk to them about potentially increasing a premium by $60, you're making nothing on it. It's about getting the right
Exactly,
coverage.
exactly. And unfortunately, again, I think insurance agents have this bad, they're stereotyped that they're gonna pitch insurance, they're gonna sell you more. It's all about the commission in their pocket. And you're right, it's very minimal, and I will say this, it's definitely less than 10%, and many times it's not much more than 1 or 2%. So, you know, that's what the agency makes. That's not the person that's actually selling it, so it's even less. So they're really trying to look out for your best interest.
Well, it's a competitive business. It's a highly competitive business. So there's no fat in that business that, you know, that an agent can just make a couple of sales and take the rest of the month off.
I wish so, but no, definitely not, definitely not.
Well, Christian, as always, thanks for taking time to appear on the program.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you from Contemporary Retirement.
Remember a more carefree time? Leave your insurance worries to us, Wright Gardner. Call or visit our website to learn how we can make insurance simple and more affordable.
These days, it seems like everything's online, and filling out claim forms and receiving and paying bills online isn't always easiest. That's why we at Quality First Insurance encourage you to just give us a call. Let us help.
Hi there, I'm Paul Sweeney with Quality First Insurance, and it's still just this simple. Our offices are open every weekday where you'll be able to call and speak to real, live people.
No detail was missed. I'm so glad that I turned to Quality First Insurance.
I've recommended Quality First Insurance to my friends who've been just as satisfied.
If you're not happy with what you're paying for Medigap, or more importantly, not happy with your service, give us a try. We're locally owned, and we take the time to provide you with the best. We are Quality First Insurance, and our mission is to provide quality products to quality people. Pick up the phone and give us a call today at 800-745-1411.